my name's Josh McLennan. I'm a European patent attorney based in Oslo, Norway, working for Homse Patent Bureau. So you can see how it's spelled there. Obviously, I'm not pronouncing it totally correctly. But I'm joined here today by Mr. Sean Kelly from Integrated IP base in several cities in Australia. And this interview is being conducted for IP Inclusive, in particular for the Careers and Ideas 2026. But the idea of this interview is basically to give people an insight into how open some Australian firms or the Australian profession is to hiring from the UK, and just to kind of share some information relating to that. So I've got a few questions and we're just going to kind of see where the conversation goes. First up, hello, Sean.
Hey, Josh.
How you've been with us for a couple of days now here in Oslo. If you could just briefly introduce yourself to the people listening and watching, and I guess briefly describe your firm and your particular role within it as principally.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks for having us in Oslo. It's great. It's been a long time since I've been to Norway. Last time I was here I was a student and I was visiting a friend who's studying in Toronto, and while I was studying in Lund. So it's good to be back, and we've had killer weather here. So Integrated IP, we're an Australian and New Zealand trademark, patent and intellectual property law firm. So a boutique firm with the offices in Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, and Auckland. I am a patent attorney, so I'm an Australian and New Zealand registered patent attorney. I've modified technical backgrounds, so mechanical engineering, physics, and applied mathematics. The firm sort of has expertise across all of the technical disciplines that they view with me on the patent side of things, so about trademark attorneys and IP lawyers. But our firm's a little bit different in the sense we call ourselves Integrated IP because we're not just sort of a boutique IP firm. We have peripheral related businesses that add a lot of extra value for our clients. We have a design firm, Vertex Design, that it's sort of help us with 3D rendering of ideas and drawings and building websites for clients, that sort of thing. We have another side of the business is IP insurance that helps our intellectual property clients insure their IP, so you can give them offensive and defensive insurance policies, particularly for the SMEs who might not be able to bankroll a full-scale litigation. And we have the IP advisory side of the business. So that side of the business works primarily in sort of IP evaluations and strategic advice. So we do kind of offer not just sort of patent and trademark and IP law services, but all of these peripheral services that create really good additional offerings to our clients and also give us the good pipelines. But yeah, like I mentioned, we've got offices in Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, and Auckland. So there's a fair bit of an excuse to travel to a lot of other cities in Australia and New Zealand. My role in the firm, so I'm a principal, work in the engineering team. So I work with a lot of our clients. I'm based in Perth. I work with a lot of our clients in Perth, sort of the mining, oil and gas, and medical device space. So there's a lot of, those are sort of the primary industries in Perth. We've got still other principals in Sydney, and that's kind of a high level overview.
Yeah, it's super interesting. When it comes to clients, they mainly kind of individual inventors, or I know you also work with kind of large international organizations as well. So I just wondered if you could give us an overview into kind of the split of your work across, I'm mainly interested in your kind of core patent and trademark, but yeah, and so kind of across your other more peripheral businesses, how does your client base differ across these different services?
Yeah, it's pretty diverse client base. There's no single client that's more than 8% of revenue of the band, top of my head. But we work with some of the biggest or the biggest resource companies in Australia. So huge oil and gas companies, huge mining companies. And we work all the way down through the SMEs to individual inventors as well. We do most of the work for one of the big universities in Western Australia. Our office is right next to one of the big universities in a major hospital and medical device research center. So it's really easy for us to sort of network with people in that sort of area. But it's a pretty diverse workload. We have a large local client base relative to a lot of other firms in Australia. So big local client base, still obviously do inbound agency work. But yeah, the primary sectors would be mining, oil and gas, medical device, and sort of technology.
Yeah. And then your attorneys themselves, what's a typical qualification route for an attorney? Obviously my expertise is more on PAMA side, but
Yeah.
also on the trademark side. What's the typical qualification route into the profession in Australia and New Zealand? Are they the same, or are they
Yeah.
slightly different?
So it's the same registration across Australia and New Zealand. It's called a Trans-Tasman patent attorney. And the general path and it's on the trademark side of things, it's similar. So on the patent side of things, you'll start with a STEM background of some sort. So you'll do a bachelor's in engineering, in my case, or science, or something else, something that's sort of in a technical field of patentable subject matter. And then the pipeline would generally be, you would go from university either to a job in industry or a job directly to a firm. So in my case, I started in industry first. I was working for an oil and gas service provider after I graduated from university. And then I moved into the profession after a little bit of time there. In Australia and New Zealand, it's the registration process is kind of a professional apprenticeship almost. So you have to do a master's in intellectual property, which you do generally while you're at a firm, and firm pays for that. And you can do it remote. So there's a couple of different universities that run it, but it kind of doesn't matter what you do, because you can do it remote, or you just get flown there when you need to be flown there. And you do that part-time whilst working full-time at one of the firms. And that usually takes a couple of years, 2 to 3 years is sort of a general timeline to get that done. And then there's some other requirements. You need to have certain work experience requirements that you would generally get from your time at a firm. So once you've finished the master's and you've got all the work experience requirements, you sort of send in your application. Hey, I want to be a patent and trademark attorney. And then you kind of get ticked off and get your registration. On the trademark attorney side of things, you don't necessarily need the technical qualification. So you can go in from a law degree, or you can go in without any of sort of like a domain specific knowledge and still do a grad diploma that will get you a trademark attorney registration, or you can just sort of do certain components of that master's sort of IB, so get trademark attorney registration.
Yeah.
So that's sort of another pathway there. And so you generally, you'd knock most of that out while you're at firm, and the firm would pay for it.
Yeah. That's very interesting, quite different to the at least the UK setup in which the majority of my training was, which some aspects are, if you kind of take some of these university courses which are accredited by our chartered institute, you basically don't have to take some of the UK exams, but you still always kind of have to take exams in order to become qualified in that jurisdiction. And of course the EPO, you always have to. Yeah, it really does sound quite different. How common is it for attorneys to have trained abroad or begun training abroad to then move to Australia or New Zealand and begin kind of working there? Would they begin practicing straight away, or would they need to begin the diploma without being sponsored by a firm in order to kind of for firms to be interested in hiring them? How common is it for these foreign attorneys to come to New Zealand and Australia, and also how easier is it for them to kind of really enter into the profession?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd say it's common. It's both common and easy.
Okay.
It's particularly coming from Europe. I mean, if you're a registered European attorney, a registered UK attorney, the skill level that's generally associated with that is considered quite high. So as Australians, we have quite a bit of confidence that attorneys who are already registered in Europe are capable, and so it'll be great for us to recruit those. It's sort of generally what you'd view it as. It's common for UK attorneys to move over here. So we, at our firm, one of the senior partners, Steve, originally started working in the UK and then moved to Australia a long time ago now. You generally do need to qualify under the Australian regime after moving here. So there's certain knowledge requirements that you can get cross accreditation for.
Okay, no.
But you do still generally have to do most of the work, because a lot of it is Australia-centric case law, and sort of applied law. And you wouldn't generally self-fund that. The firms, if an Australian firm's recruiting you from the UK, they're going to have all that sorted out. So they'll be sorting out the visa, they'll be sorting out the qualification.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it would be rare that someone will take the initiative and start doing that themselves in anticipation of them all.
Yes. I have heard of foreign attorneys that in Europe doing preparing for the UK exams, and we also hopefully enter the profession in the UK doing it in advance of actually joining it. So Again, I think that's also another difference. Do you have any concerns, kind of, I guess, regarding long-term retention of these foreign attorneys? Is that something that you've baked into your thoughts and calculations when potentially hiring?
I mean, you do think about these things. The visa situation is a little bit strange because patent attorney, the last time we checked, isn't on Australia's skilled visa list. So they have patent lawyer, patent examiner. But it was I was speaking to the head of the Patent Office Cutlass a little while ago, and he basically said it was a mistake. Someone kind of balls that one up, and they had intended patent attorney to be on there, but they didn't get the terminology right. What that means is it's harder to get patent attorneys into Sydney and Melbourne in Australia. It's relatively straightforward to get them into Perth because even the city of 2.5 million people, we're considered rural, so we get sort of exemptions on certain skilled visa requirements. But in terms of retention, it's quite common for UK attorneys to go home, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah,
But
after a few years.
yeah, after a few years, but there's still tons of them that have settled in Australia and stay. I mean, Steve's been in Australia for 30 years, so it's at the same time it's common for you to stay. And once you get to Australia, you see what it's all about. You see the weather, you see all the fun stuff there is to do. I think it's a pretty compelling argument to stay.
Yeah, it does sound super nice. But I have heard that Perth is the most isolated city in the world.
Yeah, I think it's the most isolated capital city of the state or something like that. It is
Okay.
pretty. I mean, it's about 4.5 hours away from Sydney. It's closer to Bali in Indonesia than it is.
4.5 hours by plane.
Yeah,
Yeah. How many hours by driving would that be?
Oh, it'd be like 30 something hours by car. Yeah, I'm never driven it, so it's 30 something hours.
So when you're hiring, do you tend to hire kind of ad hoc when people apply, or do you have a set kind of hiring period every year where you hire, trainee attorneys already qualified years? How have you organized your hiring regime?
So we generally, if there's a sort of material business need, we try and anticipate that and start recruiting ahead of that. But at the same time, if we come across a particularly compelling candidate gets out of cycle, we're not going to not recruit someone just because the time is not lost of the pay or that usual graduate recruitment.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, if there's a good candidate, we'll generally try and hire them pretty quickly, regardless of the timing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I get the impression that you are open to hiring directly from the UK. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Is there anything which you recommend, kind of, I guess, British students or British attorneys who have already begun their training process? Is there anything you recommend that they do in order to increase their chance of, landing a good job out in Australia, Perth, and also New Zealand?
Yeah, for the British students, it'll be hard because generally, if a firm's recruiting someone from the UK, you relocate to first, and that's sort of harder to justify for a fresh university graduate than it is for a registered attorney. So for them, they probably have better chances if they actually came to Australia while on the ground. You could have to do them in person and go from there. The attorneys you can recruit remotely and then relocate them. In terms of improving the odds, I mean,
Tailored cover letters, not like non-obvious AI use when
oh yeah,
that
yeah, that's a pretty big turn off. But yeah, it's really just sort of making sure your application comes across well. I mean, it's the same sort of thing you consider applying for any job. I mean, we treat every candidate individually and try and line them off with the right technical background. So is showing that they know a little bit about Australia, a little bit about the firm, all that's the usual.
Yeah. And is there, before we kind of close up this interview, is there anything you think of miss to discuss which I think is important, and considering kind of, I guess, hiring from the UK or from other jurisdictions to Australia?
Look, I mean, culturally, Australia and the UK are very similar. If you're from the UK, we all get along really well. Like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live in Ireland. We just got back from London. Culturally, it's very similar. The weather is a lot better in Australia. You're going to have a lot more sun. You're going to get a little bit more tanned. You're going to be spending more time at the beach. If you like the outdoorsy stuff, it's great. We got places for that in Perth and Sydney. If you like the cultural indoor type stuff, there's opportunities in sort of Melbourne, and Auckland's a great one for all the cultural events as well. So we kind of have it all depending on what your interests are. So there's something for everyone in this part of the world. It's great, and the economy's cranking. So there's a lot going on. There's
Cranking is good.
Yeah, cranking is good. Yeah. Is that a difference in terminology?
Yeah.
The economy is cranking. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of opportunity in Australia right now. There's a massive massive, I'd say a skills crisis for young attorneys that they can take advantage of. So the demographic profile of the Australian profession is very much heavily weighted towards older attorneys.
Yeah.
And in say 10 or 15 years, most of those attorneys will retire.
Yeah.
And there's this massive gap where there's not that many young attorneys to replace them. And for those young attorneys or for future attorneys, that creates a huge amount of opportunity. So I don't know if that's the same in the UK, but in Australia, that's definitely the case.
I think it's much more the case in Norway. In Norway, we have this kind of, ticking time bomb, ticking population time bomb. As a result of kind of Norway joining the EPC relatively late compared with other European countries. So, we also kind of find exactly what you're talking about as unblasted opportunity. But firms who are willing to hire at a kind of, closely qualified, like near qualification or pre-qualification level, we really see that as our kind of that is the future. It's gonna be them who are kind of entering into the profession now. So, getting into a strong strides from the beginning. Having a structured training program, training well, giving fantastic business opportunities like networking, going to conferences around the world. That's how we met. How you kind of met our firm as well. So that we see all of these things as being kind of attracting the right people to the profession, people who are gonna kind of fly the flag in future. Yeah. So I guess we can probably close up this interview here. Just want to say really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking some time to also consider our questions and also to come visit us in Oslo. It's, I know we're very far away from Australia. Probably almost as far away as you can get.
Yeah, fair few flights to get here, but it's been a great time. So thanks for having us. Thanks for opening up your office to us. It's good to check out. Great to check out the city.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And to everyone in Careers and Ideas, thank you very much for listening. I hope this interview was useful, interesting. And if you have any questions whatsoever, definitely just ask either me, my name is Josh McLennan, or Sean Kelly on LinkedIn. You can also find our emails online pretty easily with a pretty quick Google. So there might even be a link associated with this video too. So just get in touch. We're always more than happy to answer whatever questions you may have. Thank you very much and see you later.